Dear Daniel Craig, life did not always look like this. This marked a moment of triumph, a way of crushing an abysmal past and daring those with a stereotypical view of those with mental illness to challenge me on any front. To many, this was just a documentary. For me and Missy, this was our life.
It's like my skin is coming off. And my thoughts, they're racing so fast. I can't keep up.
I'm suffering too, you know. You're not the only one.
It's like my mind is coming apart and I can't get it to come together.
I think it's more than just that. Amy's been having a really hard time lately. She goes on these crying jags. She explodes without warning. She's so angry and so paranoid these days. She's not the happy Amy that I remember from Kentucky.
She thinks you're manic depressive. I, however, do not.
All right, welcome everyone to Recovery Unplugged Live. What's up, Amy?
Yeah, nothing much. What's up with you?
I'm good. How are you?
We found out about our most recent festival, not mine, but Jellyfest, and they didn't accept our film. So,
Where are they at?
California.
Unbelievable. What's their problem?
You know,
They hate art?
they have one room and they only screen. They have one screen and they're screening for 2 days. So, they sent out waivers for a lot. They reached out to cultivate or bring in a lot of films, so they probably had more films they liked than they could show.
Sure.
And I don't take it personally because even though I'm like about it, but I know it's not personal. Because I don't know anybody involved with the Jellyfest, so it's not like I think somebody out there has a grudge against me or they think my film sucks.
Right.
It may just not fit the program they put together, or I'm just disappointed because it's it would have been an opportunity for my film to screen out in LA, and it's just not going to get to right now.
Yep. What's next up?
Nova Fest. That's Northern Virginia, and Northern Virginia Film and Music Festival, International Film Festival. So, I've entered Letters to Daniel, and I've entered a script that me and Missy wrote, Gemini Rising. So, fingers crossed. That's
Okay.
November 17th.
Good. Anything else
Not
new?
February 17th. Sorry.
Gotcha.
So I had a discussion with my manager today, and as of tonight, the stuff is going out to different markets where they could possibly make it for a bigger budget.
All right. Very good. That's good news, right?
Yes. And I've been doing the keto diet, so because I'm trying to get my blood sugar in and lose weight. So that's pretty much all.
How long have you been doing that?
Today's day 3.
Okay.
And I've done well on preparing everything, and I was supposed to make dinner tonight, but then I got tired and I fell asleep and I couldn't make myself get up and do it. So my mom got pizzas, and one of the pizzas she got was gluten-free.
Gotcha.
So I could eat it.
Okay. Cool stuff. Anything else before we dive in? How are submissions? Because I know we're going to show the promo for the Conquering Disabilities Film Fest. How's that going? Yeah.
Submissions are still slow in coming, but we've got 12 or 13 submissions, and I'd say like the films that I've received are very interesting. So they range from good to really fantastic, just phenomenal. And same thing with the scripts. They all have something to say, but they range from okay to absolutely brilliant, just nothing short of phenomenal.
Wow. That's good.
I just like, yeah, I'm like, send some more.
Yeah. Well, let's show a promo for the festival, and then we'll get into your interview with tonight's guest, Rebecca, who's waiting on the line.
Okay.
All right. Here's the promo for the Conquering Disabilities with Film Festival. And when we get back, we will have the interview.
Conquering Disabilities with Film International Film Festival is about, it takes things like films, screenplays, poems, short stories, music, photography, one sheet, like, movie posters, movies shot on your iPhone, true stories that are narrative, not necessarily documentary. And of course we take documentaries. We take a lot of different stuff, and you have to either be struggling with a mental health condition or a physical challenge, a chronic physical illness, or the material has to address mental health issues. So, and for your film, the way you qualify is if it is not about mental illness, your director or your writer or your DP or your talent needs to be facing those conditions. And you put it in the cover letter. Please, people, put it in the cover letter so I can consider you for some specialty awards. It tells me that you're qualified and that, we want to see your work. We want to honor you, and we want to honor that, we know firsthand what it's like to battle these things and to produce artwork. So the website for Conquering Disabilities with Film is Conquering Disabilities filmfest.com. And for Film Freeway, it's filmfreeway.com/Conquering Disabilities Film Fest.
Tonight we have a special guest, creative writer and editor and activist, Rebecca Minton Westerman. Why don't we just start at the beginning and tell us what started you down the path of creative writing and editing?
All right. Yeah. Hello. Well, I'm thrilled to be here, first of all.
Oh, fantastic. We're thrilled to have you.
Yeah. I guess I've been writing for as long as I've been able to. When I was a little kid, I would write out, just fill notebooks with stories of, princesses and unicorns and monsters and, all the good things. And it just kind of grew from there. I went into college with an English major and then switched to theater and did theater for a good while. But then it brought me back to writing. So here I am.
Okay. As an editor, what is your role in the creative process, and do you enjoy it as much as writing?
Well, I do a lot of ghostwriting. Actually, the short answer is no. I do not enjoy editing as much as writing, but it is a vital part of the process. With edit, like once a person gets to the editing stage, like you can almost view, I don't know how, the creative work in a clinical sense. And, whereas during the creative process, it's all very ethereal and it's all very, magical and creative, and your heart just feels like it's glowing because you've written the most wonderful thing in the world. And then when you go back to editing, whether it's your own work or someone else's, you're like, what is this garbage? And you have to be cutthroat, and it's the same way with ghostwriting. someone sends me an outline, like I will never ever ghostwrite from scratch, because if I did that, then it would be my work and I'd just keep it. But someone sends me an outline or a concept, and then I go from there, and I usually work fairly closely with the person, with the client, to create the story that they have in mind. And they just don't have the stamina or what have you. For whatever reason, they can't do the physical writing of it. So that part falls on me, and it's great. And, there's a lot of benefit from that.
Okay, so what are you currently working on?
I am currently working on, I have about 1,000 things going on. I'm working with well, I can't say, but I am ghostwriting right now. I'm working probably about part-time freelancing. But as far as my own work, I am working on the sequel to my book that I have out right now through Little Monster Press. The first book is called Rising Ash. The sequel that I'm currently working on is called Falling Embers. And it is about a young girl who lives in a zombie apocalypse. And she has to, hijinks ensue. She has to figure out how to survive and how to live, and also figure out what she has to offer the world around her, and help the people and allow them to help her, the survivors. So yeah, it's I want to say it's a little bit more complex than the standard zombie apocalypse jaunt.
Okay. You are quite outspoken politically on Facebook.
Yeah, a little bit.
How does that dovetail with your writing?
Well, I mean, I think like with anything, like it's everything that is part of a person segues into whatever they create. And I try not to be too heavy-handed. But, of course, my worldview and my outlook on society is going to seep into what I'm writing. And I have a character in Rising Ash who is kind of like the polar opposite of me and the main character. And he's like one of these, like, he was actually, like, his family they were doomsday preppers before the zombie apocalypse happened. And so they survived, of course. And, they had this wonderful setup, this perfect setup. They had food, and they had a spring on their property, and they had water, and just this whole setup. And so he, grows up in that. And so he's got this, like, kind of this chip on his shoulder that he's like, I told you so. My parents figured this out, like, way ahead of you guys, so nah. But because of that, he doesn't want to help anyone. Like, he doesn't want to share what he has, and he's like, well, it's on you. You should have thought of all this. And that, who could predict the zombie apocalypse? And so he and the main character frequently get into many arguments about, because she of course is like, we have to help each other. That's the only way we'll survive. We have to band together, safety in numbers, blah, 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 So it's, these characters just showed up. I just have to kind of make sure they behave themselves for the most part.
Okay. What projects do you have planned for the future?
Well, I am hoping that Rising Ash I'm hoping that the series is going to have 4 books. That's my ultimate goal. So, I'm on the second one now, so then the third and fourth one, that's looking at like the next 2 years, I guess. 2-3 years at the most.
Yeah.
I am also working on this one's kind of occasionally on a front burner, but more on a back burner. I'm working on a Choose Your Own Adventure, Angels and Demons book story. That was an old, NaNoWriMo story, and I'm just keep puttering on it whenever I get bored.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to pivot and talk about mental health. have
Sure.
you ever personally struggled with mental illness or otherwise been touched by it in your everyday life?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, how much time do we have?
Take as much time as you want.
Yeah, no, and I just want to say, I think it's fantastic that you are shining a light on this, because it is getting better, but there is still such a stigma to the phrase, mentally ill, or, and it's such a large term. It expands to so many things. I have what I like to call the common cold of mental illness, which is, anxiety and depression. I mean, who doesn't? But I also have chronic fatigue, and I get some pretty good bouts of executive dysfunction. So, finding a way to, so on top of being a writer, I'm also a homeschooling parent. I also freelance, and I also have a part-time retail job. So I guess you could say I'm a glutton for punishment, maybe. But yeah, and the days when I get like executive dysfunction, I'm useless, and it's overwhelming, and like it's hard to explain to people how it feels, because you're just, to the outside viewer, someone's just tired, and it just looks like tiredness. And it's so hard to, like, because then you have to expend energy to explain, no, this isn't just tired. I'm not lazy. This isn't laziness. This is, my brain is like the gears, there's something stuck, and I can't make myself get up and make dinner or whatever, like it's the strangest thing. I don't think there's a way to fully describe that. But yeah, and I mean,
I was just saying, I don't think it's what you have, but my sleep cycle has gotten flipped. And because bipolar messes with when you fall asleep, how you fall asleep. And, and I was up till like 5:30 a.m. Now I ate my breakfast and took my meds at that time, and I went to sleep. But during the day today, I fell asleep, and I was supposed to prepare dinner, which was a pretty involved process. And I didn't mind, because my mom had said, okay, we're going to do this keto thing, and you can, like, if you keep up your end of the bargain, we can do it. And but she bought a gluten-free pizza instead, because I literally slept through the time I would have been preparing it. I couldn't force myself to get up. But I don't think that's what you're experiencing, because mine is definitely more sleep cycle related. Yours,
I mean, it's a similar dynamic for sure. And I mean, there really is such a physical element to it, and I think it's becoming more clear as, like, the more, like, medical professionals that I speak with, medical and psychological, psychologists and stuff, the more that I speak with, I'm finding more and more that they are taking a physical approach to it. I mean, there is therapy and all this, but there is also, like, my most recent physician that I see, this was a year or so ago, and I was coming in for my first appointment, and this is just general practice, and so I explained to her, I was like, well, here's, blah, 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 I take this amount of Zoloft, and this, that, and that, and that, and that, and I have this severe fatigue, and, blah, 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 and I just broke down everything. And her first question to me was, do you take a multivitamin? And I was like, lol, no. What? That's like old people. No, why? I was just blown away that she would even ask that. I was like, that's a scam. And she was like, you need to be taking a multivitamin, because it sounds like you have a vitamin imbalance. And she like gave me the vitamin supplement, and told me to start taking a multivitamin and to drink 8 glasses of water a day. And
So,
I was like, are you kidding me?
Right, like, yeah. There's a part
and that has made such a difference. Let me tell you. Yeah. So even just taking like basic care of our human bodies like helps a lot.
Yes. But well, you know, they'll tell you stuff. Like I had an experience when I was looking for a diagnosis for bipolar,
Mm-hmm.
where the psychiatrist actually told me it was all in my head. I was obsessing on it, and I just needed to calm
Yeah.
down and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah. No.
psychiatrist.
No, thank you. Next.
Yes. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. And that's another element is like, especially as women, like, well, you know, if you look at the media and what's in, you know, like it's almost expected for us to be in a constant state of exhaustion and a constant state of frustration, you know? And if we're not pushing ourselves to this absolute limit of just being in this ragged state of, you know, with spit up on our clothes and you know, we wearing the same pair of underwear for 3 days, and just like, if we're not doing that as wives and mothers and, you know, just women in society, then we're not working hard enough, you know? Like, the idea of setting up boundaries and saying, no, these are what my needs are. You know, I have to eat something every 2 hours or my blood sugar is going to drop out from under me, and that won't be pretty. You know, like if a person says that, all of a sudden they come across as like you know, yeah, you're difficult. And it's not okay to say, here's what I need, here's how I need to take care of myself, you know, in the workplace or in the family or, you know, amongst your friends or whatever. You know, it's still scandalous to set our own boundaries and to stick by that in a way.
Yeah. Have you ever had to be a caregiver to someone with a mental health condition?
Not really. Not really, no. Not in the way that others are. When my daughter when she was an infant, she had like a medical situation.
Yes.
And then after that she started having panic attacks. So, but she's my daughter. I'm going to take care of her, you know?
That still makes you a caregiver.
Yeah.
And people you know, I find that caregivers are people like your parents,
Mm-hmm.
or if you were married to someone, they would be
Mm-hmm.
a caregiver.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if you're going outside of that, Missy was my caregiver, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but still, by taking care of your daughter who is struggling with these things, you were a caregiver.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
just the terminology.
Okay. Yeah. Well, then, yes.
You're like, she's my daughter. I would do this anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. How does your writing help with the management of your own mental health?
Let's see. How do I answer that? When I'm writing my own work, it's so easy. Like, I really enjoy just kind of falling into it. There is kind of and I've heard other writers talk about this, where you just kind of go into this zone. You know, if you can write uninterrupted, you know, your mind just kind of clicks into that world, and it almost doesn't even feel like you're writing. It just feels like it's just flowing out of you.
Yeah.
And that is in a lot of ways, it's extremely therapeutic. The other thing is, you know, because living with, you know, any kind of ailment has its own unique sets of frustrations.
Yeah.
And in in being creative, whether it's writing or filmmaking or acting or singing or anything, you can pour that frustration, you can pivot that into creative energy. And I've seen that time and time again. Back when I was acting, I did theater on the stage. I did some independent film. Several of my friends actually, I don't know how to explain this, but they said that the only time I was truly myself was when I was being another character. And I was like, shh, no one's supposed to know. But, so yeah, in some way, and plus it's just kind of a break, it's a break from your own reality, from a person's own, and I'm not saying reality is terrible. It's not, it's wonderful, but it's okay to jump into this pretend fantasy world too for an hour or so every day, So I don't know if that answers that question or not.
Well, it does. We met at Imaginarium, I think, in 2018. Why not?
Yeah, I think so.
Why not tell what the atmosphere there is like for people who struggle with mental health conditions?
Oh, Imaginarium is wonderful. I think it's very welcoming. I think I don't know, how do you explain? Because it's such it's this little, I don't know, what's the opposite of like a petri dish?
It's like this place where everybody can come and mingle.
Yes.
But in terms of mental health, they usually have an entire panel track dedicated.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
With workshops and panels.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes.
And
that's one thing that really speaks to me about Imaginarium specifically is they have such a what's the word? So many panels. Yeah. So and it's so diverse, and like they had a panel about LGBTQ. And they had a panel about whiskey, I think, bourbon, I don't know, something. And, this is all in the mental health panel it's such, there's just, I need more bandwidth to soak it all in.
Okay. Now, as a political activist, how do present day conditions affect your mental health? Yeah.
How much time do we have?
Exactly.
Well, I have to take a break from the news frequently. Yeah. Even before this interestingness that's going on right now. Because I feel so affected. I grew up with, I'm like poster child Generation X. I grew up with Sally Struthers talking about the starving children in Africa and, blah, blah, blah. And just and then, the Cold War and, we're going to die at any moment. And if we get hit by a nuclear weapon, you can hide under your desk and that'll help somehow. And, so, it's just the world, for my own mental health, I have to unplug, and I try to stay current. I try to, you have to stay current. You have to know what's going on. But in the last, 3 years, I think I've unplugged quite a bit. I'll get up in the morning, I'll look outside, and if the sky is not on fire, I'll go make some coffee,
Okay. Okay. So now let's have a little fun. If your life were a book, what would the title be?
Oh gosh. Ooh, you put me on the spot. I think I'm going to fall back on a project that I started some years ago.
Yeah.
That I never really got past the first page, but I'm going to claim this as my life story. It's called Unicorn Steaks, Goblin Sauce, and Deep Fried Fairies.
Okay. Who are your top 5 writing idols?
My top 5. Okay. Now, some of these have not aged well.
That's okay. We all have that.
Yeah. But when I was middle school, early high school, I was obsessed with Kurt Vonnegut and Ray Bradbury.
Oh,
Yes.
Two good
And
picks.
because deep in my heart, I believe that I am a curmudgeonly old man. And recently I've gone back and read some of Ray Bradbury's work, and I'm like, oh, Ray, what? No. But the Martian Chronicles changed my life. Oh, love it. But anyway, okay, so there's 2, and these are all in no particular order. Of course, Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
Hands down, the Sandman comics, American Gods, Ocean at the End of the Lane, all of his work. He's amazing. He could write a grocery list, and I would read it, because he's just that good. And of course, one of, let's see, okay, that's 3?
Yep.
Oh gosh. Okay, this person isn't really a writer, but her book is really compelling and really kind of helped my creative perspective, and that is Amanda Palmer, who is incidentally Neil Gaiman's wife.
Yeah.
But what's that?
She's Mrs. Neil Gaiman.
Yes, Mrs. Neil Gaiman. But she wrote a book called The Art of Asking, and even though she's a bit of a hot topic, and there's opinions and blah, blah, blah. But I recommend that for any creative. I recommend that book for any creative to read, because there's a lot of good nuggets in there to kind of pluck apart. And then the other one, weirdly enough, again, I know this one doesn't age well either, but I have to say Stephen King. Just for the sheer...
I'm going to tell you, Stephen King and Ray Bradbury are geniuses. Now,
yeah.
But it's like it's like I say about directors of films or writers of films. Not every time out can be a hit or a home run. Sometimes
right? Yeah.
Sometimes they're going to produce a turd or a dud. But I think good stuff definitely outweighs the missteps.
Right, yeah. Well, and just the sheer, I mean, even if he was just writing all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, the amount of work that Stephen King produces.
Oh my God.
It's like, it's unbelievable, and I truly think he is actually doing all that writing. I read his memoir on writing, and he goes into kind of his process and how he started writing and and I mean,
I love that book.
That's another one I recommend. Yes, for creative people is On Writing, the memoir by Stephen King. But yeah, I mean, if you can separate out the negative and kind of glean, those little nuggets of wisdom, it can really open up your mind and kind of feed that creativity that you have, I think.
Well, that's 4. You got a 5th one?
Oh, that's 4. Dang it. Okay, let's see. No, that's fine. Let's see. Kurt Vonnegut. Okay.
Ray Bradbury.
Yeah.
Amanda Palmer. Stephen King.
And of course, now I'm getting into the indie circuit. So I've been reading a lot of Nathan Day. I've been reading Devil's a Lie with Thomas More. I've got 2 friends, Catherine Bryant and Lindsay Williams, are both brilliant writers. So yeah, I mean, I if I only have to pick 5,
okay.
What category? What you mean 5 that are on my bookshelf right now, or
Okay. Now here's a follow-up question: if you could meet any of your writing heroes, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh my goodness, that's a tough one. It would have to be either. Now, none of these are on the list, but it would have to be either Kafka or Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh wow, those are some
Yeah.
interesting tips.
My other thought was, oh gosh, what's his name? The guy that does the ocean, the creature in the ocean, Lovecraft.
Okay.
Lovecraft. Yeah. I mean, I would just want to meet them and just be like, what the heck, guys? What?
What was going on in your brain?
What's this about? Yeah.
What is your proudest accomplishment in life, and why is that?
Let's see. Other than the birth of my children, my proudest accomplishment, I think, is actually becoming a writer. I had always kind of viewed it as, writing as this hobby that you do on the side. And then one day I came home from work and I told my husband, I said, I am going to figure out a way to make a living putting words onto a page. And he said, okay. And within 6 months, I was freelance writing full time. Yeah. And I just like the steps of saying something out loud and then finding those steps to make it happen, I think. Because I'm one of those, I'm like, oh, this is stupid. It'll never work, and blah, blah, blah. And being able to mentally shift that into, here's what I want, and then figuring out the first step to make that happen, and then the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. I think just that process is,
That's
it's
true.
a game changer.
That's true
Yeah.
of anything in life, I think. And finally, what advice do you have for writers who are trying to make it, but are also facing mental illness?
Use it. Use it. Use the demons. Use the pain. Use the joy. Put it down onto a paper. Put it into your song. Put it into your, be who you are as out loud as you are as you are comfortable being. Yeah. And that's the hardest thing in the world to do, to get one's mind around it. I struggle with it. Every time I'm faced with a situation where I have to be, where I can be authentic, it scares the hell out of me, whether it's something I'm writing or something, even just out in day to day, like the moment happens and I'm like, oh no, people will see me, or I'm about to walk out on the stage and I'm feeling all confident and everything. There's still that tiny little voice inside my head that's like, everyone's going to see you. I'm like, but yeah, just embrace it, use it, channel it, become friends with it, whatever it is. Maybe not friends, but at least cordial coworkers or something like that.
Our guest last week said something similar. Find what is unique about it, and use it to tell your story. To find
absolutely
passionate. And
yes.
On that note, I'm going to welcome John back. John, that's my last question. Do you have any follow-up questions for Rebecca?
I would just have a couple comments. I thought the technical discussion around the complexity of mental health and discussing mental illness was spot on. I thought that I really appreciated the discussion around advocacy and how important that is. And I love what you just did there, Amy, and kind of tying in the previous interview with now. And I think that's an important takeaway about advocacy and about talking about mental health issues, is to not only use that creativity for yourself and your own development and your own health and wellness, but also the aspects that you guys are talking about making that unique about you and figuring out how to fit that in, and how to better advocate and talk about it. So I would just say good job. I appreciated the interview again, and Rebecca, thanks for being here.
Did we ever
absolutely thank you.
Did we ever figure out what kept us from going online last time?
I think what happened was it was past that 10-minute window.
Oh.
So that's what happened. Was it wasn't the stream wasn't working, the video player got deleted, and then once it was once it's past the 10-minute window, it just won't show up.
Ah.
So
That sucks.
Sorry.
but we were live now.
Yes,
We were
we
live
are.
today.
Well, it was a wonderful interview, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Come here, kitty.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Who's up next week?
Eric Kerr, and he was supposed to be up last week, but I didn't hear from him until the day of, and we were in the process of promoting ahead of time. So we rescheduled him, and he's going to be next week.
Gotcha.
And I'll send you his name
Okay.
so you can.
And Rebecca, do you have social media, or do you have a website or something that you want to promote before we head out?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is currently down, but I am on Facebook under R.G. Westerman is my author page. I'm on Twitter, R.G. Westerman. Yeah, so let's see. Facebook, Twitter, I feel like I'm missing something. And I'm in the process of my website, rgwesterman.com, is under construction, but it will be up very, very soon.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate your perspective. I know.
Thank you so much.
Amy does. Amy, good job as usual.
Thank
I saw
you.
that you took the last question as the time to put on your robe.
Yes, I did.
The
'cause I was a
regal,
little cold.
the regal bathrobe here on Recovery Unplugged.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Wow.
All right, we're back live for 10 seconds to say happy birthday to the person who's responsible for the outro and intro music.
Oh, Valio, that's right.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Valio.
He is our intro and outro music, also does the score for Letters to Daniel, the full feature film, correct?
Correct.
And Black Gold.
Yes, and All in the Family and Something to Believe in.
Happy birthday, buddy.
Actually, he's been entered into three festivals. His score separately has been because I've entered him as part of his payment, have entered him into these festivals to be considered for awards because I just think his score is beautiful that he did for Letters to Daniel.
It's really cool. It's really cool. How do you say his last name? Genhoff?
I think it's Genoff.
Genoff? I don't know if the H is silent or not. He'll tell us. But anyway, happy birthday, Valio. All right, everyone. See ya.